on the Whole Truth set today. We have the man, the myth. And when I say the myth, I mean the myth. The legend, singer, songwriter, recently actor, I guess.
Come on.
Cobhams, aka Elephant Man, so let me add
Come
that.
on.
So that's Cobhams in the studio.
Yes.
I know, like, okay, let me start on a light note. The Mr Macaroni, how did it happen? How did that come about?
It's all the people in my life. Okay,
Yeah.
so I've always been a big fan. Like,
Yeah.
I love everything Mr. Macaroni does.
Okay.
You know, everything he puts out. You know, we kind of come together as a team. We watch it. We just think it's super cool. And so we're thinking about, you know, why not? And I guess for me also, there's this thing that always happens to me. I watch something by somebody, or I listen to a person over a period of time, and before you know what's happening, I'm meeting with them and we're kind of getting to collaborate.
Yeah.
So I think it was one of those moments, you know, and yeah, I think it was Toju who was like, we can pull this thing off. And, you know, we'd done a thing or two with Mr. Macaroni before then. And then, you know, we reached out to him and he was so gracious. Like, the guy he's just amazing. You know, we reached out to him, was like, okay, no problem. Can we meet this Sunday? Me, that I was thinking the thing was going to take like maybe a month or something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this Sunday, well, okay. Initially, I wanted to kind of dodge. You know how when you phone someone, right, and the phone is ringing,
I don't have to,
and you're
they
kind
don't
of
pick.
hoping
Yeah,
they
they don't pick.
In my mind, I'm like, oh man, I wish there was something I could. But as it drew closer, I just realized, you know, go there, be yourself. And then I went there. He was gracious. He then shared the idea. He was like, look, this is what we're going to do. You're going to steal chicken. And I'm like, wow. Yeah, but it was nice. He shared the whole idea with me, and I was on board. And we're like, you know, let's do it.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much how that happened.
That's dope. So as a fanboy, I'm going to be biased, music biased.
Okay.
So like I told you earlier, like I also have some Easter eggs, but these are going to be like favorite songs of mine that I think like people may or may not know that you produced.
Okay.
For example, Lagimo by Rooftop MCs.
Yeah.
What was that process like?
That was a very interesting process. So the guys came to me and said they wanted us to make a song with this. So you know the original, like it was I think it was Salawa Beni or something. Or something like that. I don't understand why anybody wanted to beat them like that. But anyway, you know, they were like, we want to make a song with this. So I started to make the beat, and I wasn't sure where the thing was gonna go. You know, I made the beat. Then Kule started writing, you know, to the beat, and Kulefa started writing to the beat. And then, you know, I did my chorus, they did their verses, and I kind of freed the song for a couple of days. And then they came back for us to finish the song. And I went into my room to do something. It was random. I think I went into my room to take a call because the studio was in my house at the time. And all of a sudden, the idea, my head is spinning like a carousel. Because first of all, I was thinking about Michael Jackson's Speechless. And I thought about, my head spinning like a carousel, something that. And I was like, oh, wow. And I'm like, that's a nice line. And then I thought about how, yeah, you know, how your head spins from tension, you know, before you go up to perform, and how, you know, you like the attention and all of that. And I started thinking about that, and I started thinking about our hidden pride, you know, and stuff. And that's how I like stood in my bedroom and began to write those lines. And I just stepped into the studio and I was like, you know what, there's one missing bit that's going to, you know, change this song. So I got on there and I kind of voiced it one time, one take, and freed it. And then it was time to shoot the video. And we got on set, and I noticed Clarence had this swivel chair, and he had me sitting on it, and he was spinning, and I was like, "Is she understanding the assignments?" You know, yeah.
So, Cry by Mode 9.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
That's a not very happy story.
Okay, we can skip
So,
the details.
No. I mean, I can share it. So, for Cry, right? I think the emotion came through. I'm not sure what had happened that day, but I got to the studio upset, and I wasn't sure I felt like working. But then there had been this MPC Akai sampler that had been sitting, you know, there in the studio for a while. And, you know, my friend Shola and I wanted to make music with it, but we hadn't quite figured out what to make, you know, with it at the time. So he pulled up these hip hop samples, you know, the kits and everything. And then I was like, you know what, rather than sample somebody's song, I'm going to create my own sample. But I'm going to create a sample based on how I was feeling at the time. And like I said, I was feeling pretty crappy. Something else had happened, something completely unrelated.
Yeah.
So I was in the studio, and then I made the music, and I started singing, "Ew, ew, ew, Chineke, ewa, owa, ewa, awalame." And you know, it was so it you know, that whole thing began to happen. I didn't want to pitch my voice, but I wanted it to sound sampled. You know, so I started, you know, I put on this sort of manic tone and then, you know, began to create, you know, and then people would come into the studio and I'd shoot them like, go, 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 go. I don't want anybody here, you know. So I was just kind of in a mood and just making music. And then I stepped away from the beat, you know, and then came back to it like a couple of days later and I played it. And I was like, oh, wow. This is dope. I'm like, if I hear that I don't rap on this. I mean, he didn't say, nobody said if I hear that, but it was like, that I will not rap on this thing, you know. And so it just sort of naturally became.
That was like in the question mark.
It was the question mark phase of my life, pretty much. And you know, he jumped on it. And then Nena, who was also with question mark, you know, then came and, you know, she did the chorus. And so I think we locked ourselves up in the studio. We were working on a number of projects. It was after I'd made the beats, that is, you know, and, you know, Modern Road to like Cry and Journey So Far and a number of his songs. And, you know, it just kind of happened from there.
Let's hope this is a happier tale. One that most people might not even know you produced it to maintain. Catch Cold.
Catch Cold.
When I heard I was mind blown. So I was like, no way he did that. So how did you guys hook up?
So we hooked up. How do we hook up? I was working on a commercial. I was, I don't know, maybe 19 or something, 19, 20 or so. I was working on a commercial, and Big Bamu, maintenance manager, came into the studio. He was looking for, he wanted to buy CDs. I think he wanted to burn something out. They had a session before me, and he wanted to burn something. He wanted to record something on a CD. So he was looking for a CD, and you know, nobody had a CD in the studio, and they didn't have CDs to sell to him. So he was like, I'm looking for a CD. I'll buy any amount. And I think I'd come with like 6 empty CDs to burn what I was working on, you know, before leaving the studio. So I was like, don't worry, I have a CD here for you. And he was like, how much? I was like, no, it's cool. Just, you know, I'm just giving it to you. It's all love, no, you know. And he's like, in Lagos, you're just giving somebody CD. Like, see, empty CDs then was expensive. This was like early to maybe like 2000 or something like that, you know. So he took the CD, and unbeknownst to me, he had been listening to what I was working on. And he was like, and by the way, I have to say, I really like, you know, that jam you're working on. I'd like for you to work with my guys. My name is Big Bamu, and I manage maintain. So I was like,
did you know them?
Of course I knew them. Who didn't know Niwola, Wangelo, then who didn't know Dami, Tila, and all those other songs? So I was like, oh, I was really excited. Somewhere at the back of my mind, though, like, yeah, that's what they all say. I need you to work with my boys. Next thing I know, I won't hear from you again, you know. Because musicians, there's this thing, you know, and it's not like it's spoken, but you guys meet and we should link up. Let's link up.
That's more in general.
You know, and then everybody just kind of moves on and life happens. Yeah. Interestingly enough, Maintain calls a few days later and he says, I need you to get together with my boys and make music. Now I had this manager then, and my manager was like, Maintain, you're going to produce them, make a lot of money, this is that. And then he told me how much he wanted to pay. At the time, I think it was like 10K or something like that. And my manager was like, do you know who you are? You know the kind of music you make? You can't collect that. This is that. And I was like, yeah, that's true. I can't collect that. Like, look, if they can't up it to blah, 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 we're going to just send them off and send them on their way. Me, I didn't care if they would even pay me money. I just wanted to work with Maintain. You know what I mean? It was just something, you know, I wanted to try my hands on working with an actual, you know, artists or stars that were out there. And so I went behind my manager's back to do it. And I called them and I was like, you guys don't worry. I will do the thing. Let's just do it, you know. And even when they paid me, I used the money to buy suya and drinks to the studio. So we had like wine and suya and all kinds of things, and we had fun. And I made 3 songs that night for them. There was Catch Cold. There was this other song, yeah, and there's some other song, My People Waiting Day for Maryland with the Sherry. Well, that one wasn't as popular. About like the January 27th thing, you know. And so it wasn't until much later, I can't remember the conversation we're having. And, I told my manager, oh, by the way, I worked on that song for Maintain. I worked on a project for Maintain. And my manager was like, what? You went ahead and did that after blah, blah, blah. You know what? I quit. I was like, okay, no problem. So my manager quit. And then days later, I'm walking around in the house and I hear, I catch cold on the radio. I'm like, my mother's son. I have a song on radio. My biggest dream. Do you know the number of times I'll be in the bathroom, I'll be dreaming? How would it be like to hear my own song on the radio, like on release or something? And I heard Catch Cold on the radio. And then what actually blew my mind was, I then went to school, because I was in Unilag at the time, and I was in my sociology class. And my lecturer was talking about, different kinds of drive and this and that and hunger drive and such and such. And at some point he was talking about like when your body feels cold, like when you catch cold. It's like, how many of you know that song? I catch cold. And I'm sitting here thinking, if I say I produced that song now, these people will say I'm lying. Nobody will believe me. Like, because I was in year one, I was one scrawny student, just in class, dealing with the issues of being, freshman and all. So that was kind of how, Catch Cold happened. And for years, I couldn't tell people I produced Catch Cold.
Nobody, to be honest, I recently just found out, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I'm like, no way. That's how long your production discography is, man.
Yeah.
Amazing stuff. So you're already singing background vocals and all this, but I heard you were still scared to sing when you wanted to put out your first album.
I hated my voice.
Yeah, why was that?
I hated it. Because the thing used to crack. You can't, even like now as I'm talking, I hear myself sometimes, And so because of that, I was just too scared to power my voice, And so I think I found expression through other people's voices. So when other people would, when I would produce other people, I would tell them, do all kinds of things. Yeah. And they would do it, and I'm like, no, not like that. And I would do it, and I would do it as an example for how they should do it, And then it just dawned on me one day. I was like, but wait a minute, this thing that you are doing for these people, and you're showing them example, and they're doing it not like that. And you're doing it every time you do it the way you want to hear it. Why not use your own voice, And then I just got to a point where, like, there are certain songs of yours that you just can't, you can't keep. You can't keep giving them away. You just need to use your own voice, to sell your own song, because you can tell your story better because it's coming from your heart. So I decided I was going to go out there and just sort of do my own thing. But until then, or before then, I hated my voice. I didn't want to hear it.
Look where we are now.
I know.
It worked out, didn't it?
I know, man. I know.
How do you keep up with like these guys? Like, how do you listen to them? How do you keep your style evolving?
I love music. I love music naturally, right? So for me, it's not work, in terms of my style. So I've always listened to music. I've always listened to different genres, different styles of music, and listened in depth. So there's a time I used to listen to underground hip hop, and I'd listen to like Ninth Wonder, like Talib Kweli, like Mos Def.
Who's your favorite hip hop producer?
My favorite hip hop producer right now, it'll be 40. It'll be or of all time, I don't know, maybe Swiss Beats or Scott Storch. Okay. But I love like what 40 is able to do with Drake and stuff like that. Yeah. But so I listen to a lot of that stuff, and then I'd listen to classical music. I'd listen to like the Promenade, the Proms concerts. I'd listen to like, Tchaikovsky and Rachmaninoff and Schubert and Schumann and Bach and Handel and Haydn and Mendelssohn and all of that. And I'd, turn around and listen to jazz, and I'd listen to like Oscar Peterson, John Patitucci, Marcus Miller, Dave Grusin, Duke Ellington, guys that made really that kind of music. And so I listen to music in general. Juju, I was listening to, King Sunny Ade, Segun Adekunle, just Akbala, Ayinla Omowura, Atawewe, Haruna Ishola, the good stuff. I listen to everything. So like right now, I'm listening to Afrobeats, and I'm listening to everybody, King Perry, King Promise, Daku, Joe Boy, Black Sheriff, you know, Burner, obviously. I don't know, unless you're living under a rock, you cannot not be listening to Burner. You know, so when I listen to music, I listen to everybody. You understand? I listen to Lamba, like, you know, like Beta Lamba from the streets.
So
You know what I mean? So I just enjoy music. I enjoy music. So because I have the skill to interpret what I listen to, because I understand the technicality, I understand the sequence of what I listen to, when I have to recreate it, it's not difficult for me to do. What I also do is, because I'm a human being and human beings are naturally intelligent, I'm able to sort of skew or sort of bring my own spin to the sound. You know what I mean? So that it's not only new, but it also has like sort of a signature vibe to it, you know, that is me. So, but I think it comes first and foremost from listening to and appreciating, you know, different genres of music in depth. Not just so you can name drop or anything, but like in depth, you know what I mean? Yeah.
So I want to ask, what kind of creative process are you in now? And I ask because you have two beautiful songs out, Elephant Man and Jolly Jolly. What were you thinking at that time when you were like, oh, this is what I want to put out now?
I was thinking, so I feel like people like to put me in a box. I feel like people like to put people in a box generally.
You put in that piano,
I always sit in front of a piano. What do I do? Wise men say. And I'm like, I can do that, but I can also do and you know, bounce and you know, put some music to, because you know, that's also like naturally a part of me. I'm a Nigerian. I live in Lagos. You know what I mean? I consume the music that is made by my people for my people. You know, so I'm not oblivious to, I'm not removed from this vibe. You understand? Whether it's Burna or it's Ruga or it's Somali or whatever. You know, this sound, this is my reality. I exist in this space. You understand? And this is the soundtrack of Lagos, of Nigeria, or the diaspora, or whatever. You understand? This is the soundtrack of my existential reality. So I can't run away from it or pretend like I don't function in it because of the other things that I'm able to understand and appreciate. Do you understand? So I think that's really what it is for me. I think that's where my mind is. That's where I'm creating from. So you know, I understand the stories Nigerians want to talk about. Nigerians want to flex. You know, we want to talk about the good life. You know, we want to. And sometimes it's escapism from our harsh reality. You understand? Because when we look at it and like, you know, why is that all you talk about? And I'm like, yeah, that's all we talk about because, you know, it allows us aspire. You know what I mean? It's very aspirational, you know. So when you talk about the Bentleys and the Benz, it's not just common nonsense talk. It's where people want to go. It's what people see that inspires them and gives them hope that someday they're going to be sitting on top. You know, and so I kind of understand the importance of, you know, telling that story in the language that people want to hear and people understand. So yeah, I think I'm really just having fun right now. I'm just making music and having fun.
Shows in the music because I'm like, how does your A&R mind work? Like bringing Belashimoda and saying, oh, Belashimoda will be perfect with this, or Patoranking will be perfect with this. Like, what was that thought process like?
So when I started making Childish, I was going to studio to do something else. And the beat began to play in my head. And like that whole beat happened in like less than 20 minutes, you know. And when it happened, I knew instantly that chorus, that Elijah, that had to be either Bella Shmurda or Irisha Femi. You know what I mean? Because they have that soulful, you know, tug at your heartstrings. Like, there's just something, the soul in their voice. It's like, blessings of the Lord come down to your children. Like this, there's something, you know, it's so, hey, Baba, I don't know whose jam that song is. Not, even though it's not like recent, I mean, but it's still, it's become a classic of sorts, you know. So I heard, you know, I was just like, no, it has to be Bella. So I reached out to my friend, Idi Kabasa, you know, and, you know, he was like, no problem, I'll get Bella to the studio. And I was like, will Bella even answer me like this? This one that he'll be thinking, who is this one that, you know? Funny enough, the guy showed up and he was like gracious and correct and everything. So when he finished, I was like, I know this boy has finished this song. Even me, I don't know what I'm doing on this song. It should just be his own. So I was playing it for a friend of mine at the Toro, and she listened to it and she was like, you know who else would just completely murder this song? And I was like, who? And she was like, Patoranking. I was like, Pato is my gene, his blood. I'm going to call him. And I called Pato. And the thing with Pato is, from when I decided I was going to switch my sound, Pato was one of the people that told me, if you're going to switch your sound, switch it completely. You know, do stuff that, let people know that there's this side to you, you know, outside of, you know, you're serious, more avant-garde, more, you know, let people know that.
Been there, like your Instagram videos and everything, that side has always been there.
Yeah. But I don't think, for whatever reason, right, I don't think I, you know, managed to transfer it to my music as such. You understand? Because I understand the importance of the music I create, you know, and the messaging of the music that I create. And for whatever reason, I think I always wanted to send that message out in a particular way. But Nigerians were also moving, you know, and Nigerians had moved. And I think it was my responsibility, if I was going to continue to get people to appreciate what I was creating and listen, you know, to move, you know, with the people as well. If anything, to even move ahead of the people, you know. So when Pato said that, you know, it struck a chord with me, and I was like, yeah, I really need to do this. So, you know, when I reached out to him, you know, he was like, of course, now I've told you about anything for you. Don't worry, no problem. You know, he was really gracious. And, you know, I sent him the music, you know, he sent me back his verse, and yeah.
Man, that was it. I'm loving the 2 new singles, Elephant Man and Jailija. Album
Thanks, bro, thanks.
soon, EP? Anything?
Album soon, EP. Okay, so again, with how I release music, I'm also listening for what the people want. Because, you know, sometimes you put out an album, people can take like 2 or 3 songs and throw the rest of the thing away. You know what I mean? It didn't happen with Burna's last album, though, and I'm happy because that's like a masterpiece. Yeah. Like, you know, the different songs have, you know, the different, you're in a different mood, like they're like layers. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I like that very much. And I feel like I have created an album that sort of has that expression, and it has everybody on it. You know what I mean? From Joe Boy to Thames to Baba to Ladipo to Salty Soul to, you know, I've got like all kinds of people on the record. Yeah. But it's important for me, for people to be able to grasp and appreciate where my music is now. And I feel like, you know, rushing people with an album would be like trying to blow people, you know, the fuse in somebody's brain. Yeah. So I'm taking time out, putting the music out, you know, little by little. But an EP should come out soon, and then an album will follow.
That's it for me. We love it. Love the new singles, like I said.
Thank you.
Man, meet the legend again. That's it on the Whole Truth Cobhams.